Morning, guys. Mark Ferrasci. Driving as usual, so I'll do one of my wild hares and do a yak session. So everything is evolved and keeps evolving. It was slow but sure. I get a little bit more handle on pushing him out of office with his full cabinet and everything else. Hopefully our guys on Capitol Hill will start doing what they need to do. Stop playing this pussy button game and realize everything they've done is break the law, go against our judicial system, badmouth judges, demonize the other side constantly, then start going in with their Nazi Gestapo squads, going after all our people. You know, maybe they're not citizens, but we have a system set up to let them have due process and to go through the whole process. And if you don't think that doesn't work, look at Obama. He went and used the process as it was designed, and he got more of them out of our country than this guy is doing with the heavy-handed. The heavy-handed is all about what he's doing, right? There's a method to his madness. I keep saying that. So there was a post this morning. I think I posted it. Hopefully I won't lose it. I'm going to go back and find it again. It was on Threads, and the guy was talking about psychological warfare, how they have teams of people, how to handle population and disrupt their whole systems in such a way that they're creating intimidation and creating fear and intimidation, and there's a design purpose in this, right? And that's what they're using against populace right now, because anxiety and fear causes them to eventually be able to manipulate it where they're in control of the society. The other thing they've done is bought all our media. Think about it. All the platforms that we use to discuss our conversations, everything are controlled by the oligarchy, by the rich mother blanks at the top of the hill. Zuckerberg is in with Trump. They're all with Trump, and they're manipulating their platforms in such a way that our voices are not getting out. Sure, there's a lot of us that are going through YouTube and they're doing the podcasting. They've got audiences that are so large that they no longer can be messed with as easy. Look at Don Lemon. Don Lemon may have been arrested, but they're going to throw it out of court, and he's got enough money to afford it. And just go play the game, and all they're trying to do is, it's not a matter of winning or losing. It's a matter of what they're doing mentally to us, right? They're screwing us mentally using power and intimidation and everything else to get us into a situation they can manage us and manipulate us. And they keep moving that ball down the field a little bit more every day, right? It's nothing more than psychology, guys. Whether you realize it or not, all this stuff that he's spouting has done nothing but turn our society against each other, to pit us against each other. When we've got a thing, and we always want to say it's politics. It's a lot more than politics. This is a fascist regime that's trying to take over our country. Now, if you talk to any one of those, I just did a post this weekend. If you didn't see it, they got over 48,000 people clicking on my post within a night. And that's not much in the heat of battle, and other people that have podcasts and everything else, that people are, that are audiences, give them a lot more than they give to somebody like me that doesn't have a voice. They keep me stifled. And they've done it for a long time, because I've ended up having cancel culture with these kids that are dog trainers, quasi, that don't like the fact that I put them in their place, and I right away say that it's not right for them to go out there and go poof, I'm a dog trainer, and hang up a shingle. They need to work under somebody else and mentor under somebody else for a couple of years and earn their way, and know what they're doing professionally to a point that they are professionals, instead of just saying, poof, I'm a dog trainer, hanging a shingle out, and then learning on the customer's dime. And that's been happening for over 30, 40 years. Why do I know? I've been in the business for 30, 40 years. I started out that way. But back then, there was nobody out there, right? Now, they've got all kinds of learning, all kinds of ways of doing what you need to do to become a professional. You have no reason to do that, other than you're lazy and you want to stroke your ego and make yourself feel good. So you want to hang out a shingle and say, I'm the boss, right? All right. And then you're charging the customer, and you're learning on their dime. Because when any dog trainer worth the salt, we all know that where our experience comes from is how many dogs we have under our belt. How many different, because everyone is different. Everyone. Doesn't matter what it is. They're all fed by their owners that are making mistakes and doing the wrong things, and then genetics and all the other equations that make up that stew that makes that dog what he is. So that being the case, It takes experience to be able to feel that dog, to have that gut feeling, as I call it, to be able to sense what's the right answer, and knowing, having a lot more bags in your balls, having a lot more tricks in your bag that'll allow you to have, wow, I can use that for this dog, or whatever it may be. That's experience. That's just, you've got to pay your dues. You got to put time in. How do they always say? 10,000 hours or something like that to become an expert in anything, right? And that's true with anything you get into, right? There's a certain amount of hours, a certain amount of learning, enthusiasm, drive that gets you to be that expert in that field, whatever it may be. If it's a sport, whatever it is, right? Your skill comes with time and working at it, right? Got a good example for you. Aaliyah Boston was played on the Indiana team. Young player, she's been playing her whole life. She got in, she had Caitlin Clark on her team, and they kicked ass and took names. And I'm watching her right now on Unrivaled, and I can see the increase in quality and skill and ability to be able to read the court and be able to know where to go, and it's just instinctive. It's click, click. She's growing into a hell of a basketball player. She's starting to get three-pointers from outside, and the more time she puts in, the better she's going to get. But that didn't come without hours and hours and hours of work, right? So I started this out talking about what's going on with Trump and what's going on with the fascism in our country. We had a bunch of them come at me, and they were just nothing but negative, and you don't know anything, and they try to flip it towards us. We're the fascists, right? They always do that. They flip everything back on you. They claim it's you before you know it's them. We finally got enough time under our belt that we're starting to figure it out. We know that we're being lied to. We're being intimidated with these white supremacists and all their attitude coming out as strong. And it tends to stifle you. I mean, I dealt with it this weekend where I had all this negativity coming at me, and all I wanted to do is kind of ignore it and push it off, because that's all it is. You're not going to be able to argue and be able to have a conversation with them, because they're not going to believe anything of what they believe in, right? And it's a horror story for our country, because it boils down to all for one man that started this grievance politics that has us pointing at each other, right? And tear our whole country up. And in the end, it's one friggin' man. It's not our whole country. It's not all of us that care about each other. It's not all of us working towards building it. And I give Biden hell for all you want to, but in reality, he had a lot of good sayings. He had a lot of things that let him be a good mentor for our country. And one of those sayings that I always took to heart: there's nothing that we can't do if we work together. If we get together, there's nothing we can't do, right? And by splitting us apart and creating hate and animosity against the other and demonizing the other all the time, that's what their side's all about. We don't want to do that, but we've turned into a little bit of the same beast, haven't we? Because I want to demonize them. I've got a well of, I won't say, it isn't hate, because when I get somebody that's, let's say he's a MAGA, right? I don't hate them. They're a human being. But at the same time, I've got a lot of animosity about their point of view, because they don't have anything that's logical. They don't live on Earth 1. They don't live in reality. They live in a fantasy. Everything's a fantasy, right? I posted a post this morning about that lady that was in her driveway with the cops. The cops were trying to talk to her, and she was putting notes on cars and being very aggressive and negative to her neighbors because they were Mexicans, right? And then she kept using it. But Trump, our president, she's basically like all the Karens. They're mentally displaced, right? And he's taken advantage of that. He's put all these people that are a little bit weaker in the mind, a little bit more susceptible to being manipulated and not wanting to have their own thought, learn and grow and put the work into paying attention, right? They want to watch Fox News all day long, right? Did you see that one that I put an interview with, who the interview was? They were talking about Fox. And Hannity, that's what it was. And the reporter was asking him some good questions, and basically in a nutshell pointing out the fact that it's nothing more than a entertainment. And that's what it is. They've been classified that by the courts, right? But here's what the courts didn't do, and the lawyers didn't do. They need to have a warning right up on their front page. This is entertainment only, and specify that they're not real news. Right? They need to be dictated to that, because that's what they're doing. They're screwing up a lot of old folks' head and a lot of weak-minded people, and then they're not willing to back away from it, even when they're being told through lawsuits and everything else by our court system that that's an entertainment, it's not real news, right? Hannity told them in a nutshell, don't you trust our populace? Don't you trust the public? You're not giving the public enough trust. Blank you. F you. Okay? As far as I'm concerned, F you. You're taking advantage of people that are weak in the head and can't work their way out of a paper bag because they want to be told what to do and they want to feel a certain way that you guys have stirred up the pot to get them into. And all that hate and animosity is being pointed towards our society as a whole, allowing them to have leverage and ability to tear our country apart. Do you know how great this country was? If you look back in our history, how much we've done for the world, not just us, right? And now look where we're at. Within 1 year, within, let's say, 10 years of this guy popping his head up out of the hole, right? And then to find out all the stuff that they created with this fantasy world, trying to go after the Democrats for being pedophiles and doing this and doing that, and all of it goes back to them, as usual. They blame everything, and they had this whole fantasy world because they knew it was going on. But let's point it the other way in case we ever get caught. We're going to blame it on the other side, right? That's part of his psychological game. It's nothing more than he's a grifter. He's a con man. And America has fallen for the con man, right? As a whole. We're going to have a lot of work to do to deprogram these people and get them to start thinking some positive thoughts. They don't want to be because they don't even think they're in a cult. But anybody that's on our side that has any common sense at all, we can see every one of those people. And we know right when they start talking that they're in a cult and they're not right in the head, right? Went to the laundromat a week or two ago. I'm in the laundromat doing my laundry, and of course I'm pretty fixated on this subject. I start talking to the guy about some of these conspiracy theory BS and going my Trump line that I'm always going after, right? This guy jumped in the hole and started going, we talked about chemtrails and all the stuff that they're wacko about, right? It's all little kernels of truth that have something. Yes, they did experiment with weather control, right? And it has happened, okay? They've done that back in the 60s, 70s, whenever they were doing it. They don't do it anymore. What you see in the air is these jets that are flying around. There's friction in the air that creates that plumb. That line behind the plane is nothing more than a natural response from high friction and acceleration and stopping and going and all that. That creates frictions that creates the wings to be hot. That creates moisture in the air that puts it out back. Now I'm saying it in a layman's term. I'm sure there's a lot more scientific aspect of that. But that's what that is. It's nothing to do with them spraying chemicals into the air, right? But QAnon, oh my God, I used to have a girlfriend that we're not together anymore because of that whole type of thing. I was anti-Trump from day one, but there was no way to convince her any other way because she's Christian right? They wrap the flag around the Bible, around religion, which makes them feel righteous and feel that they're right? They're not, right? We know that. They need some help. They need to be deprogrammed to start teaching them. Bottom line, another one of the arguments that's been coming up lately, how bad our situation is with all these mental people in the street that are not mentally stable, the drugs and everything we have. That started back in the friggin' 70s and 80s when Reagan was in office, right? I think Reagan was in office 70-something. I went to Oakland, that's my timestamp, and I think Reagan was in office at the time. So bottom line, Reagan, or Bush, I think it was Bush, but same thing, Republicans, right? Took away all the funding for the mental institutions and the whole network that we had set up to help these people, to get them the drugs they needed, to be able to have places to have doctors that were psychiatrists, and all that system was all set up. And then they started going negative on it. They took all the funding away from it, and they threw them out on the streets. That's why we have such a problem. It goes right back to the Republicans again, right? Everything that's happening in our society is that side of the Republicans, right? We need to learn how to manage this. When we come out of this mess, we have to really work hard to repair everything, to put everything back together, have enough checks and balances that we never let anything like this happen again. And then we need to start doing some things, working together to put together systems that overcome the problems that we have, right? We had it back in the 70s, and we didn't have near what we have now. Right? We have the problem we have now because of greed and fraud at the top of the hill, because they want that money for something else, right? They don't care about the small man. They don't think about it at all. But they'll use it as a leverage to blame the other side constantly, right? Oh, it's the libs' fault. The libs this, libs that, libs this. 90% of everything going on is the Republicans' fault, period. I hate to say that, and I know you're loyal to your GOP party and QAnon, and you don't want to be pulled out of your friggin' little mental disillusionment that you've got, but it's going to come. We're going to get to a point where we got it all wiped out. We clear the gun whales. We have to start over and get all the chicks and put it all back together. And it's going to be such a mess, it's not even funny. We're going to see so much of it, right? And then they're going to try to blame it all on us. It's all our fault. It's all the libs' fault. Keep in mind, I'm not a Democrat. I'm an independent. I want to vote for that specific issue at any time that comes up and vote my conscience in that regards. I don't want to be loyal to a party, right? Loyalty has a certain amount of credence, don't get me wrong. I am a libtard, but I'm not GOP. So I am not Democrat, right? I'm Democratic leaning in my thoughts and my process, right? So whatever. And it's the same way on the Republicans. There's some Republicans that aren't totally entwined and in deep in that, but they believe in their basic core of their conservative values that they used to have. They don't have it anymore. MAGA doesn't have any of it anymore. There's none of it existing on Capitol Hill. Anybody that has anything of its common sense is gone. They pushed him out, or they got tired of it and quit. He's gutted our whole core. Well, the FBI, I wouldn't trust him as far as I can throw him right now. Go back 2 years ago when Biden was in office. The FBI has always had a very quality reputation, something I can look at and say that they were there to protect our country. That was their whole goal, and their whole agenda was to do their job in such a way that they were protecting and staying out for our laws and our whole situation at the top of the pile being the FBI, right? Do you trust the FBI nowadays? No, he's gutted everything. He's gutted everything. He's got, ring kissers everywhere, and those that'll bend the knee and not have the strength to tell them to jump in the lake. So it is what it is, but it's going to come to an end here real quick. It's happening. Right now, all this kicking out that they're doing, like when they attacked me on that because I said I was Antifa, right? I got all kinds of hell for it. It basically is them kicking. If you change a behavior, I'll give you a good example. If I take a dog that has an ingrained behavior that I'm trying to change, I'll get somewhere and I'll start making headway in changing that behavior. And then all of a sudden you'll have what's called an extinction burst, right? Humans are animals just like anything on God's green earth. Whether you think you're not an animal, you are, okay? You have the same wiring and the same type of things that's common throughout the whole earth, no matter what animal you are, right? Learning theory works with every animal. I'm talking about learning theory, right? And you get that behavior changed, and all of a sudden one day you think it's all gone, and all of a sudden the dog will kick out and start really just protesting and being a pain in the ass. He's basically having what's called an extinguishing burst. He's having a situation that he doesn't want to let go, and he's flashing on the old programming that's there. He doesn't want to let go of it. But that really is your first sign that we've got to the point now. If he's doing that and I just keep going, we're going to get to the other side and that behavior is going to fade away, right, with the right word. It's called an extinguishing burst. That's what they're doing right now. They feel the pressure. They, on their wiring and their psychology in the back of their head, they sense it, they feel it. And so they don't want to let it go. So they're coming out and they're being all the more vicious, right? Same thing's going to probably happen with ICE. They're going to be a lot more vicious and a lot more, because that's nothing but the white supremacy. Now, all the guys that hit the Capitol Hill, when they were all white supremacists, they were all racist. And when he pardoned them all, he put them to work on his teams. That's why they've got masks on, so we can't see who they are. And also, just like some other people have noticed, it allows them to be a lot more vicious and because they don't feel they're going to suffer any consequences because nobody knows who they are. See my point? That's what's causing it. Excuse me.